This is a SandyBoy Productions podcast.
Welcome to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast, where we help women remove the overwhelm of living their most holistic life. This is the place to find evidence-based nutrition tactics, healthy lifestyle and wellness tips, abundance mindset, and easily implementable low-tox living strategies so you can rise up to your full potential and protect your family's health. I'm your host, Stacey Heine, certified holistic nutritionist and better living advocate. Now, let's get empowered with some simple swaps that make a big impact for optimal wellness.
Hello, Health Crusader. I hope that you're having the best day ever. Welcome back to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. It's Stacey Heine, your certified holistic nutritionist and lifestyle wellness mentor. And I am super excited because today's episode is called The Plant Revolution Live. This is a recent masterclass that I held for women that are interested in switching over or moving more toward a plant predominant way of eating. And as you will hear in the masterclass, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And we have to drop that mindset that it has to be perfection, because every single step that we take to get 1% better by eating more plants and putting more colorful foods on our plate, the better for our long-term health, our disease prevention, and for the way that we're going to be able to show up in the world. So I go through all of those things in this masterclass, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. And I want to give you a heads up. At the end of this masterclass, you're going to hear an invitation to join us in what I call Holistic Mama Society. But it's actually now called Holistic Wellness Society. We changed the name recently of my monthly membership community because I want to make sure that you know this is not just for moms. This is for all women that are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, that are ready to take the next step to feel well and to take control of their life in a natural and holistic way. And as a reminder to you, if you haven't heard me invite you to Holistic Wellness Society, the doors are now open and you can join us on the other side. You can get access to me at a group rate by joining my monthly membership. We have live weekly calls where I'm either teaching you how to cook or I'm teaching you tips and tools on how to live a more natural and holistic life by covering the 5 pillars that I teach about holistic living, which are, as a reminder, body nourishment, belief system, honoring earth, mind-body connection, and success environment. And the coolest thing about this is that when you join my monthly membership, you're going to have access to a whole vault of whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, and sugar-free recipes. We are up to 100 recipes now, I believe, in the back-end website. Plus, you have access to all of our past trainings. So there are so many trainings within each pillar already. And there are also breathing tactics, there's detox, there's hormone health, there's cancer prevention. We have guest speakers. It's incredible. And right now, currently, this week, we're actually in our second session of tackling mindset with a guest speaker. So it's absolutely incredible. And you can come in this week and catch the live training with us. And if you have any questions about joining Holistic Wellness Society, all you have to do is click down in the show notes and schedule a free wellness chat with me. I can go through all of your questions for you to see if this is right for you. But here's the deal. If you are ready to just feel better, if you want more energy, if you want to reduce your toxins, if you want to know how to eat more plants and how to even start with living a more natural and holistic life, Holistic Wellness Society is for you. Now, I have something extra to share with you. There is a VIP option. So if you are like, yes, Stacey, I am in, I want to do this, then you might want to check out the VIP option, because if you need that one-on-one connection with me, if you need somebody to really mentor you and guide you, you can check that box for the VIP option. There is that base membership where you can just come on into our community. You can come into the live calls. But if you really want to tackle your wellness, if you have particular needs that you really need to tackle with your health, then we can work one-on-one where you unlock unlimited access to me plus a monthly call for 30 minutes. And it's a minimum of 6 months to join Holistic Wellness Society, regardless if you're in the basic package or the VIP package. But we know to change our habits, it takes time. And so many women actually stay much longer than the 6 months because they want to continue to learn. They want to continue working on themselves. They want to tackle their mindset. They want to get 1% better, and they're ready to feel their best. And total body transformation, mind, body, spirit, it takes time, right? So it's a journey, and I want to take this journey with you. So click the link down in the show notes to check out Holistic Wellness Society. We cannot wait to see you on the other side. All right, here is Plant Revolution Live. We hope you love it. All right, so we are recording. Hello and welcome to the Plant Revolution Live. I am Stacey Heiny, certified holistic nutritionist and lifestyle wellness mentor with over 15 years of experience helping women increase their holistic health through one or all of the 5 holistic pillars that I teach, which are body nourishment, belief system, honoring earth, mind-body connection, and success environment. And today's talk is really all about the body nourishment pillar as we break down common myths about plant-based nutrition, different trends, what your body actually needs to thrive nutritionally, how to prevent disease with food, and how to implement a plant-based lifestyle if that's something that you'd like to do on a more normal and consistent basis. During this event, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat or message me, get a hold of me, and we can chat through this if you are listening to the replay. What we know about the importance of what we eat on our overall lifestyle is that when we eat well, we live well and have a lower risk of obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. And healthy eating can help people with chronic diseases manage these conditions and avoid complications. Eating well can also improve gut function, hormones, focus, mental clarity, energy levels, and many studies support the truth that an unhealthful diet is constantly linked with mental health issues and depression and anxiety. The fact of the matter is that eating food is essential to life, right? And in other words, we need to eat to live, but many find themselves living to eat. Our bodies cannot manufacture all the substances that we need, and therefore we must consume foods to produce energy and to provide the building blocks necessary to sustain life. Nowadays, if it seems as though and it seems like it's guaranteed that our supermarket shelves will always be filled with food and drinks, right? But with no need to worry about food availability and access right now to a wide variety of products, we can become less discerning about what we eat. But doing so has consequences, and it's important for all of us to make reasonable food choices. So here are just a few key reasons that explain why each and every one of us should actually value our food and what we can do to make better choices when it comes to what we eat. This is even before we get into like the big nutrition part. So first off, food is essential to our health, you guys. Food is essential to our survival, but some foods are more valuable than others for our health and well-being, providing us not only with energy, but also with the nutrients that our bodies need. A varied and balanced pattern of eating, like the one that I'm going to talk to you about tonight, that's based on fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, whole grains, and other nutrient-dense foods like mushrooms and herbs help us to support our health and prevent disease such as diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart disease. And this is absolutely critical if we want to be around for a long time and thrive and feel good and live without chronic illnesses that are currently plaguing so many of us. Another reason why we should really care about what we eat is because food production can damage the environment. So our current food systems are taking a major toll on the environment. There is no way around that one. And these systems include the production of, processing, and transporting all of our food, and are responsible for between 20 and 35% of greenhouse gas emissions, meaning that our food system is a key driver of climate change and its consequences, unfortunately. And sadly, animal agriculture, specifically 99% of where people are getting their animal products, which is in concentrated factory farms. This type of agriculture produces 65% of the world's nitric oxide emissions, which has a global warming impact of 296 times greater than carbon dioxide. Raising livestock for human consumption generates nearly 15% of total global greenhouse gas emissions, which is greater than all the transportation emissions combined. And beyond greenhouse gas emissions, food production, specifically for animal agriculture, is also a key driver of global deforestation, you guys, and biodiversity loss. And of course, we're not talking about the local family farmer down the street. This is a different story, right? This is a different story. So conversion of forest land for agriculture use is considered the biggest cause, accountable for around 70% of global deforestation. And removing trees that can act as carbon sticks increases the impact of our food on climate change and also leads to the loss of habitat for animals. This is in turn driving losses of biodiversity, and the large amounts of pesticide that are being used are contaminating our waterways and our soil, and overfishing is completely depleting our biodiversity of our oceans, which has consequences in and of itself. And then the last reason that I want to mention before we get into all of the nutrition part is that our future food supply is uncertain. So although food production is currently a key driver of both climate change and losses in biodiversity, both issues could in turn be a key driver of both climate change and, both issues could in turn be a threat to our future food security too. So current forecasts suggest that increasing average temperatures could reduce the productivity of food crops by up to 10%. And that is a higher concentration of carbon dioxide in the air, which could result in those crops also producing less nutritious fruits and vegetables. Meanwhile, biodiversity loss could potentially impact our food production as plants and animals become more vulnerable to pests and diseases. And wild pollinators like bees and butterflies, which we absolutely critically need, are being depleted and destroyed. And I said that was the last thing, but I lied. This is the last thing. And this is really important and something that we don't think about, you guys. We waste too much food. We must get back to how valuable this is. Our food is so valuable. And I can just speak as a personal experience. Like, we grow our own organic food and sell it at the farmer's market. It is so much work. And yes, now there are these huge machines and all of these farming practices that make things easier. But let me tell you what, it's still a ton of money, a ton of resources, a ton of water, a ton of soil, a ton of all the things to create the food that we have on our plate. And ironically, as we're struggling to ensure food security with climate change and all the stuff that's going on, we are simultaneously wasting a huge amount of food. I mean, huge, you guys. How much do Americans waste? Does anybody have any guess? If you want to guess in the chat, let me know. But the whole world wastes about 1.4 billion tons of food every year. And the United States discards more than any other country in the world. Nearly 40 million tons or 80 billion pounds every single year. That is about 30 to 40% of the entire US food supply, and equates to 219 pounds of waste per person per year. And that, I know that seems extreme, but that's like every person throwing away 650 apples. Okay. So like, some people, of course, are wasting a lot more than others, but I know that, you've probably cleaned out your refrigerator and your pantry before, and you just throw all the things away, right? Like, we We just waste food like it ain't no thing. And this issue isn't just wasting the nutritional value of the food itself, but also, again, the energy, the effort, the resources, you guys, the air, the land, the water, the soil, all of that. We have to be more mindful. Okay. So reducing food waste is a simple way to reduce the environmental impact of our food and improve food security and even lower the amount of money that we spend on our food. All right. So with all of that said, tonight I'm going to be talking more about food. And I know that you really want to know about this, not about global, all that, but I needed to touch on that for sure. It's very important. But specifically the health impacts that eating a whole food plant-based lifestyle has and how to implement this eating pattern. But first we need to understand a key component, and that is, what is plant-based? What is plant-based eating? Okay. Simply put, a plant-based lifestyle isn't putting you into a box, and it's also not labeling you as a vegan, a vegetarian, a pescatarian, a lacto-ovo-vegetarian, or any of those titles. But also, I will say, no judgment. If you want to use those titles for your lifestyle, roll with that. Absolutely. But plant-based really isn't about what you exclude from your diet. It's more about what you include. That is the fact that the majority of what you are eating, we're talking 90 to 100% of what you consume is coming from whole plant foods. And again, as I stated before, this includes fruits and veggies and whole grains and beans and legumes and nuts and seeds, plus mushrooms and herbs and spices. And we know that the longest living people on earth who live in what we know as the blue zones eat about 95% plants. And yes, some of them do include a few animal products in their weekly food intake, but it's more like a condiment than anything. It's definitely not, what people are basing their meal around, which is what American society typically is doing. It's like, oh, we're having chicken tonight. Let's add a vegetable or two, right? Or, oh, it's beef tonight, or a pork chop, or like a piece of fish, right? Or like breakfast, it's like multiple eggs, and then we throw in a few vegetables. That is not the way that the longest living people on earth eat at all. It's like an egg or two a week, right? Like it's very small amounts of animal products. So we need a wide variety of whole plant foods to get adequate nutrition and different types of antioxidants and all of the amazing benefits that plants give us. So let's go over some of the biggest myths when it comes to plant-based nutrition. This is kind of like my favorite part of the presentation tonight, because I just think there's so many, and I could have 10, but I narrowed it down. So as plant-based living becomes more and more popular, people are becoming familiar with the term vegan and vegetarian. And fast food restaurants have even started adopting vegan-friendly options to satisfy plant-based eaters, which actually is about 10 million people in the United States now. And the Impossible Whopper and at Burger King and KFC's Beyond Chicken are all a few examples of meatless alternatives available for drive-through options right now. But now that plant-based foods have completely infiltrated the mainstream media, the media has been met with both controversy and support, because some have narratives that paint a picture that plant-based diets are a healthy alternative to meat-heavy diets, while others are quick to identify points of concern. Rightfully so. So with many questions unanswered, there are many misconceptions that surround plant-based eating. So we're going to set the record straight tonight by debunking and validating assumptions that you may have. So here are some of the common myths about plant-based nutrition debunked. And that is that vegans and vegetarians don't get enough protein. So this is one of the biggest myths when it comes to plant-based eating or veganism, if you're going for a label. But people tend to associate meat with protein thanks a bunch to our subsidized crops and factory farmed animal agriculture companies that fund the majority of our food system and dietary guidelines and more. So naturally, a diet lacking in meat is equivalent to a diet lacking in protein. And it is true that consuming all the necessary protein and amino acids on a plant-based diet could be a little bit more challenging if you are leaning in on the wrong foods, like heavily processed and refined packaged foods. But if you are prioritizing unprocessed whole plant foods, it's definitely not impossible. And in fact, can be a breeze once you understand it. So while meat and animal products like dairy are the most well-known for the forms of protein, protein is not just limited to meat-based products. Beans, tofu, nuts, and most commonly are some of the most commonly recognized plant-based protein sources, but many vegetables like spinach, asparagus, and broccoli, and whole grains, and even fruits all contain protein in them. The daily recommended amount of protein is about 0.36 grams per body weight, per pound of body weight. But I actually just bump it up to make math easier to 0.4 grams per pound of body weight. And that's also to just be as an insurance policy for maybe somebody who has imperfect absorption, or maybe they have super active lifestyles. That 0.4 grams per pound of body weight is a good place to aim. Again, it's really 0.36, but I rounded up for those who are really concerned about getting adequate protein. Plant protein is easily absorbed through a plant-based diet and is a way cleaner source of protein because it's not sitting next to cholesterol, saturated animal fats, carnitine, antibiotics, and hormones that are found in most of the animal products that people are eating. And examples of great protein sources are 1 cup of lentils, which gives you 18 grams of protein, with other types of bean containing about 15 grams per cup. Quinoa has over 8 grams per cup. Bean pastas have around 25 grams per serving of protein. Kamut and teff, which are whole ancient grains, have around 10 grams per cup. Hemp seeds have around 9 grams per 3 tablespoons. Oats and couscous and buckwheat also have protein. And of course, tofu and edamame, they have around 8 grams, while tempeh has around 11 for the same size serving. So 1 cup of peas even has 9 grams of protein, you guys. And broccoli has 13 grams of protein per 1 pound bag, which I can easily eat as a snack, dipped in hummus or drizzled with vinegar. I mean, like, give me one of those 1 pound bags of pre-cut broccoli, cauliflower, or broccoli cauliflower mix. And like, I will just steam that and just eat it. Like, it's so easy to eat and it's ridiculously low in calories and 13 grams of protein right there. If you are really worried about protein, of course you could take a protein powder, but that's, there's a different set of standards there to look for when it comes to picking protein powders. And you could feel free to message me about that if you have questions. But really, you don't need to be eating isolated protein like that. Really, you can get adequate protein in whole plant foods as long as you're planning out what you're eating. So the next myth is that a vegan or plant-based eating pattern is always healthy. It is typical for plant-based foods to be synonymous with the idea of being healthy, but people have this preconceived notion that anything labeled or advertised as vegan is automatically chock full of nutrients. But while that may be the case for some products, others have been heavily processed, they've been refined, they've been stripped of their essential nutrients, and that can ultimately make them no different than the non-vegan junk food. So with any way of eating, really, it depends on the person to follow this eating pattern correctly, right? And we know that the best way to eat is unprocessed. It's unprocessed whole foods. So a plant-based way of eating in and of itself is the healthiest and most sustainable way to eat if it mainly consists of whole plant foods and very minimally processed foods. But when highly processed and prepackaged foods are introduced into the eating pattern, the amount of nutrients like fiber, minerals, and antioxidants that make the plant-based eating so beneficial dwindle. Okay. So it's important to keep in mind that plant-based eating can technically qualify as bakery sweets, refined grains like white flour and even white sugar, and other foods that are not health promoting and aren't nutrient dense, but are instead just calorie dense. I mean, you guys, Oreos are vegan. They have vegan Girl Scout cookies. These are red flags. If you see foods that are labeled vegan, you just need to know it's like a red flag automatically. Not always, but like you gotta read the label and make sure that what you're eating is whole and very minimally processed if you're going to be eating packaged vegan foods. Okay. All right. The next myth is that eating plant-based is expensive. I love this one because we're currently kind of in a recession, if you will. And many people believe that following a plant-based diet is more expensive than a meat-inclusive one, but that is definitely not the case. First off, I am going to make it really clear that it's not necessary for you to be 100% plant-based to have optimal health. I want to just let you know that that is what the science shows us. And but there hasn't actually been a comparison yet of people who are eating 95% plant-based and then 100% plant-based. And I'm sure there will be one soon enough. But right now we know that people who are eating 95% whole plant foods, that's adequate to have good nutrition, right? Okay. And so again, it's about 5% inclusion of animal products for the people that are living the longest in this world currently. And if you were to go and source animal products properly, if you wanted to include them in your diet, you would need to be looking at 100% organic, pasture-raised, antibiotic and vaccination-free farms. And you would be spending a lot more money. Believe me, I used to do that before I went completely plant-based, which was like 12 years ago. I did make the transition to local farmers because I just started understanding how horribly toxic all of the animal products were on the shelves at the grocery stores. I mean, they're just horrible. And you pay nothing for them because they are created by government funded subsidies. And it's just this horrible system. But you significantly spend a lot more if you're eating the proper animal foods, if you were going to choose to even consume them at all. But with that said, I don't condone eating animal products for the environment, for ethical and potential health reasons. But also, again, if you do choose to consume them, it would need to be no more than probably about 5% for maximum disease prevention. We're talking cancer, obesity, diabetes, high triglycerides, all of those things. A plant-based lifestyle, when done right, places a lot of emphasis on whole food nutrition and minimally processed foods like fruits and veggies and whole grains and beans. And while it will always be more than the dollar menu, that gives you chronic illnesses, these foods can be super, super affordable. So, however, it can start to get pricey when you decide to stray away from these whole plant foods and you go for the fancy prepared vegan snacks and all of that stuff and fall and slip right into that marketing again, right? The Nutri-washing, making us think that we need to get all these fancy foods, these fancy vegan foods. That can get really pricey and it's not typically as good for us. So there's nothing more affordable than potatoes and beans and rice. And if you make the right sauces, you'll be golden. And this is how I teach my members of Holistic Mama Society to cook with my batch cooking training and my free sauce book. When you have the tools that you need, you'll be well on your way and you'll be saving a lot of money. The next myth is that you have to stop eating animal products completely. I've already covered this, you guys. It becomes easy to confuse plant-based nutrition with veganism and vegetarianism and all of the types of diet labels out there. But people tend to forget that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, okay? Eating patterns are different for each person, and it's important to find the right one for you that you will stick to for life and one that you can maintain and enjoy and reach your health goals with. What we know in order to reduce our risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, cancer, and other lifestyle-related diseases is that we need to replace saturated fat, which comes from animals, with polyunsaturated and monounsaturated plant fats. Reducing our dietary cholesterol intake, and cholesterol comes from animals. Increase our fiber-rich foods. Fiber only comes from plants. And we need to decrease our sodium intake and increase our potassium intake. decrease our intake of calorie-rich ultra-processed foods like refined grains, processed meat, unprocessed red meat, and sugar-sweetened beverages. And allowing for room for some flexibility when beginning a plant-predominant eating pattern is key to ensuring that you can actually stay consistent with it. If you can get on board with eating predominantly plants, you're going to be so much more, you're just going to be well on your way to much better and or optimal health. Okay. And again, we're going back to those blue zones. They're eating about 5% animal products. Okay. Even if it is your goal to eat fully plant-based eventually, going into this with this mindset that it doesn't have to be all or nothing can really help you maintain a healthier eating pattern overall. And what matters the most is the long-term sustainability of change and not just a few bouts of healthy eating. We need to create tiny habits each and every single day that are stackable and able to be kept in our lives because they become second nature. If you find you need to incorporate a small amount of animal products, like a few eggs a week or a piece of fish once a week, or a piece of chicken one night per week, if this is what you need to do to make a healthier lifestyle change that's attainable, then it is still far better than eating animal products and processed foods daily. So take it one day at a time and one meal at a time and prepare yourself for success. The way that I teach is whole plant foods that are mostly free of added salt, oil, and sugar, because currently most people are addicted to hyperpalatable and hypercalorically processed and animal-based foods, keeping them stuck in the pleasure trap. And the most important thing that we can do is to shift and move more toward a natural and whole way of eating. And the way to do that is by getting back to nature and eating foods from earth, and use delicious herbs and spices to season our food just like it's meant to be. We were never created to eat the dietary pattern that most people find themselves addicted to these days. And that is why 70% of our nation is overweight or obese and setting themselves up for chronic illness down the road. This following myth makes me actually laugh because I understand calorie density and volume eating super well by now, but some people think that if they go plant-based, that they will be hungry all the time. Nothing could be further than the truth. And in fact, some of my clients are actually unable to finish their food at first because they are not used to the volume that they're eating and that they're able to eat when they eat these lower caloric density foods, and typically these lower fat foods that come from whole plants. And just for the record, there are multiple studies showing us that the humble white potato is actually the most satiating food on earth. So there's a fun fact that you should know. If you are ever finding yourself getting hangry, just eat a potato or two, okay? And now plants are generally lower in caloric density than meat products. So it is reasonable to assume that the former is not as filling as the latter. Yet whole plant foods are high in fiber, which is a plant-based macronutrient that is crucial to optimal gut health. And those who consume larger amounts of fiber are more likely to stay fuller for a longer period of time than those who do not, because it cannot be broken down. And fiber can only be found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, and mushrooms and spices and herbs. So make sure that you are consuming the recommended amount of plant-based foods each and every day. We're going to go over that a little bit later. So fiber has been proven to help to have many other benefits, including maintaining blood sugar levels and lowering cholesterol and body weight. And fiber triggers satiety. So the mechanism of that is that satiety, let me just tell you what satiety is. Satiety is a feeling of fullness that persists after eating, and it affects the length of time between eating events and possibly the amount of time or possibly the amount of energy consumed at the next. So satiation is the satisfaction of our appetite that occurs during the eating occasion and causes one to stop eating. So satiation is important to controlling the amount of energy intake at each meal and snack. And both satiety and satiation affect total energy intake, and both can be influenced by fiber intake. Okay. So fiber-rich foods tend to require more chewing than low fiber foods, and this may decrease the rate of ingestion and increase satiety or satiation and reduce the total amount of food consumed. But foods rich in fiber may also displace foods that are greater energy dense, like processed and packaged foods, which can also aid in weight control. And if we lower the caloric density of food, we get more weight and volume of food in a given number of calories. That is why eating whole plants is it's just the most sustainable and attainable way to find your optimal body weight, because these fruits, these vegetables, even the starchy vegetables, they're so much lower in caloric density than the standard American diet foods that you can eat so much. You can eat in abundance. You don't have to package your food or measure it into little tiny containers. Like, there's none of that. If you really want to have true food freedom, getting the fiber is what you need to do. 97% of us are deficient in fiber, which just speaks volumes for what we are not doing enough of, which is eating whole plants, right? So also, lastly, I will just say that sometimes if you see a greater volume of food, this is specifically for people who are on a weight loss journey. If you see a greater volume of food on your plate, it may actually help you feel more full, which I find very interesting. So for those of you who are on a large or small weight loss journey, try to fill your plate. Maybe instead of using a dinner plate, use a salad plate and fill it full, because that will give you the illusion that you have a very full amount of food and could potentially slow your gastric emptying. Fiber also does that as well. And it also helps balance your hormones and reduce your glucose spike. All right. The next myth is that plant-based eating makes it difficult to get enough vitamins and minerals. And this is a commonplace belief that plant-based eating patterns are lacking in one aspect or another when it comes to nutrition. So plants are the most nutrient-dense foods, which make the myth really laughable. So citrus fruits are high in vitamin C, leafy greens are abundant in calcium, iron, and zinc, and all plants contain protein, which warrants that people will get most, if not all of their essential amino acids and vitamins through solely consuming plants. So the only vitamin that we need to be supplementing with on a whole food plant-based eating pattern is vitamin B12, which is actually not found in plants. And it's also not found in animals. It's actually a microorganism that blankets the earth. And unless you are eating your own garden crops that haven't been totally sanitized, like the produce on the grocery shelves have been, you probably won't be getting enough B12. And this is why, like, pasture raised animals, if they are eating pasture, like, they're getting their B12 through that, because they're eating the microorganisms on the earth. And all of the factory farm animals are supplemented with B12. So you should know that in this day and age, in a sanitized world that we're living in, you should supplement with B12. Everybody should, regardless if they're omnivorous or if they're herbivorous. Okay, so some of the different trends out there now we're going to talk about. And before I get on that, I just want to make sure that we are here. Say hello. Okay. Kathy says, I know it's not a whole plant food, but what do you think about fully hydrogenated peanut butter? It's no longer partially hydrated, which has been so lovely. I would not suggest it. Anything hydrogenated, no. Sorry, I got sidetracked and I told you guys I was not going to take questions until the end, but I just wanted to see what was going on. And you guys, if you agree with any of this stuff, please say yes in the chat. If you're on board, please say yes and let me know that you're here and alive. Okay, so some of the different trends, you guys, that are out there right now that are less than optimal long-term and especially not good if sustainable and maintainable weight loss and health are your goals, then you should know about these things. Carnivore diet, you guys. Okay, no. The carnivore diet requires eating mostly meat, along with some eggs, fat, and cheeses. There's also a popular version that includes eating only beef. Okay, although you can find carnivore diets success stories online, do not even think about it, please. This is not a healthy or sustainable diet, and there are healthier ways to lose weight. In fact, cardiovascular cardiologists and gastroenterologists are super fearful of what's going to be happening about a decade from now, because we know that heart disease and cardiovascular markers, they take a while to manifest within the body. But a few decades from now, guys, we're probably going to be seeing a lot of ramifications coming from these ketogenic and carnivore diets. Not good at all. So not only is the carnivore diet extremely high in saturated fat, which can put you at super high risk for increased cholesterol levels and destroy your gut, it can also leave out a lot of foods that are really, really good for you. So that includes fruits and veggies, which are known to promote weight loss and help prevent disease. And the bottom line is just please avoid this diet. I see that Teresa's here. This is great. iPhone says yes. I'm not sure who you are, but say hello and drop your name. Cindy says yes to plants. I love that. Great, guys. Okay, the next diet that I would love for you to avoid, which might seem shocking, and I'm going to explain why, is the Whole30 diet. And I'll tell you why. What it does is it tells you to eat fresh fruit and veggies, right? But the proponents of the plan say that focusing on whole foods instead of packaged foods and processed foods will result in weight loss and other health perks, which is true, right? But higher energy and improved sleep. Oh, that's another factor that you can get with whole foods or Whole30. But Whole30 actually prohibits many dietary staples, not just unhealthy foods like added sugar and alcohol, but also beans and legumes and whole grains. And and by the way, legumes are found in all of the blue zones. So if you're looking for a longevity food, beans and legumes will be part of that. Okay. That is found in all of the blue zone areas of the world. They're eating legumes. While your body doesn't need it doesn't need these healthy foods to function, like the beans, legumes, and the whole grains. Whole30 restrictions can actually make the program difficult to stick with. So that's my beef with it. No pun intended. So this diet wasn't designed to be sustainable. It's actually called Whole30 for a reason. But if you can't maintain a diet for more than 30 days, why would you do it? Is my question. If you are someone who finds motivation in a diet jumpstart, then Whole30 might be for you, but just make sure that you have a plan for how you're going to sustain healthful choices after that month. And also be sure to make it a plant-based version of Whole30 if you do try it. So you can find plant-based versions of Whole30. So if you are that type of jumpstart type of woman, then go for it. But make it, my thought is that if you are really wanting to get on a pattern of healthy eating, find what makes you happy, what makes you satiated, what makes you feel full and like you're eating in abundance and that you're not restricting and you're not torturing yourself. Find a healthy whole plant food predominant diet. And I don't even like to say diet. I'm sorry I said that. I've been trying to restrain from that word. An eating pattern, because diet is just so ingrained in our brain that it's a weight loss. It doesn't have to be about that. It could be about true health, and your weight loss will be a natural byproduct. Okay. So again, also though, bottom line is that strict rules like on the Whole30 can create a cycle of guilt around food. And even if you follow through on the entire 30-day program, at the end, it's still likely that you're going to feel down on yourself for eating the food that was once deemed bad. Okay. So plus, when you go back to eating these foods, you may end up eating even more of them because you were restricted so hard from them. So that can turn into kind of an ongoing restrict binge cycle. And over time, you're just limiting certain foods that you end up overdoing. And it's better to find an eating pattern that absolutely incorporates starches like your whole grains, your beans, lots of sweet potatoes, lots of potatoes. We are just so programmed right now to be fearing these high carbohydrate foods. And I'm going to be going over that in a minute here. But lastly, the last trend I would like to see you avoid is keto. And if you want to lose weight quickly, this diet will work. Okay. It will. But researchers designed this way of eating to help control epilepsy in children. And it has become a popular way to lose weight. But there is lack of definitive research proving that keto is safe and effective for the long haul. This is again where the cardiologists are fearing what's going to be happening just a few decades from now or within the next decade, because keto has been around for a while now. And what we do know is that high fat, moderate protein, and very low carbohydrate eating plans like this have a reputation for being challenging, especially if you're doing it without medical supervision. And when you go off the plan, you're going to gain your weight back. Like, why wouldn't you? And a lot of people gain more back than their original weight. So if you want to follow all of the buzz about these ketogenic diets, which have been deemed to help diabetes, certain types of cancers, Alzheimer's, and more, just know that there hasn't actually been lots of long-term randomized studies or control trials when it comes to keto. And if you do choose to do it, please choose a plant-based version. There's a plant you can eat, ketogenic, plant-based. The beautiful part about that is that it's bound to fiber. 97% of us are deficient in that. Remember that. Okay. So again, this is a trend though. And there are many ways to approach keto. Not are all healthy at all. Not all of them are healthy at all. Okay. So, try to go for plant-based if for some reason you feel as though you have to do this trend. It's not the way that I recommend, but if for some reason you do, make it plant-based. Okay. All right. I'm going as fast as I can, you guys. I'm going to go longer than an hour. I'm just giving you a heads up. Please let me know you're still here in the chat. Okay. I don't know. Maybe miracles happen. Maybe I'll go over an hour. All right. Or less than an hour. We'll see. Okay. Let's talk about what our bodies actually need. Let's talk about what our bodies actually need and how we're going to get that from plants. Okay. The basic fundamental things that we need from food are water, carbohydrates, protein, fat, minerals, and vitamins. Water, carbohydrate, protein, fat, minerals, and vitamins. The best news is that water is found packaged in all fresh fruits and veggies, and staying hydrated on a plant-based diet is easier than if you were eating the standard American diet, point blank, okay? And of course, we need to drink water to keep things moving and to get adequate hydration for all of our systems to function properly. But when you focus on the right foods and lots of delicious fruits, you will be on your way, okay? I absolutely love also herbal teas as a way to stay hydrated, and to utilize those for your well-being. It is also known that if you are dehydrated, by the way, you could have 30% less energy. So hydration is definitely important, and we can get water in a variety of ways. Okay. So that's our first thing we need to know. Carbohydrates are next. Carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of fuel. Did you know that? Did you know that all of the food that we eat actually turns into sugar? It turns into glucose to be used by the body and the brain. It's the brain's preferred fuel. So whole plant carbohydrates are easily assimilated and used by us. Carbohydrates have gotten the worst rep, but it is because the studies and headlines showing carbohydrates as, quote, bad are talking about refined sugar, flour, ultra-processed, bleached, refined flour, processed carbohydrate foods, which is not at all what I would promote for a healthy eating pattern. The longest living populations eat a large percentage of their calories as carbohydrates, and whole carbohydrate sources are fruits, starchy vegetables like potatoes and sweet potatoes and winter squash, beans and whole grains. And we need to get focused on these health promoting foods and chronic illness reducing foods. And again, remember, if you're on a weight loss journey and you want to feel full, eat your white potatoes. They're the most satiating food on earth. There's studies showing it. It's phenomenal and so fascinating. In fact, I am still full from the potatoes that I ate this morning. I ate a lot more between that, but still I can feel the potato. Like I know I am satiated on these potatoes. Could have been all the mango too that I had, but anyways, I digress. The next thing that we need is protein. And did you know that all plants have protein? It's very true. And watermelon and iceberg lettuce even have protein. So please stop following the clickbait that we need to get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. It is absurd. Like if there's a 150-pound woman, I see people like very well-respected dietitians that I love and adore. They are telling people to get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That means that somebody would have to get 150 grams of protein. Do you know how taxing that is on the body? It's incredibly taxing. So we have to just go back to the basics. 0.36 grams. I'm sorry. Yes, 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight, or round it up to 4.4 per pound of body weight, which is like roughly 40 to 55, 60 grams of protein for the average woman. Okay. And it's actually, there's been studies showing that even elite athletes and Olympians don't even perform better with excessive amounts of protein. And in fact, it can be taxing on our liver, our kidney, and our digestive tract. So when you eat an appropriately planned, whole food, plant-based way of eating, you should get sufficient protein, and the protein obsession has to stop. Again, I told you that if for some reason you're fearful of not getting enough protein, you can find healthy plant-based protein powders, but there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to that, avoiding the isolates, and just getting whole plant protein fiber powders if that's something that you're looking into. But you don't need to. You do not need to be stressing about that. All right, the next nutrient that we need is fat. It's an essential nutrient, and beautiful, beautiful thing. All plants have fat, but of course, there are some more concentrated sources of healthy unsaturated plant fats, like nuts and seeds and avocados, and even oats have healthy doses of healthy protective fats. All right, we're moving on to minerals. Minerals are necessary for 3 main reasons: building strong bones and teeth, controlling the body fluids inside and out of the cell, and then turning the food that you eat into energy. And whole plant foods are packed with minerals, and nuts and seeds and cruciferous vegetables and avocados and sea vegetables and beans are all really great sources of vital minerals. You're going to find minerals in all whole plant foods, but there are some more concentrated sources. Again, beans are a very surprising source of iron and calcium and micronutrients that you really wouldn't expect. And these sea vegetables are really great. Sea vegetables are great for iodine, which is good for thyroid health. So eating 1 sheet of nori a day is a great way to get your iodine in. So if you've never tried nori, try it. Go Google it. Okay, vitamins. It's a little bit longer. So vitamins have different jobs to help keep the body working properly, okay? So some vitamins help you resist infections and keep your nerves healthy, like vitamin B12, which is why you need to supplement it, while others may help your body get energy from food or help your blood clot properly. So vitamins are organic molecules normally found as precursors to various enzymes. That's as scientific as we're getting tonight, okay? So a few of them actually act like hormones, and they have far-reaching effects on the body. And they can also be impressive players when it comes to working together to help these enzymes do their job and protect us from free radicals and transform our macronutrients from food into usable energy. And they can also be divided into 2 categories. Just for fun, we'll tell you about that: fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. And fat-soluble vitamins are vitamins A, D, E, and K, and they require a little bit of fat for your body to absorb them properly, which is why if you're taking a vitamin D, it's always good to try to take that around mealtime so that you absorb it a little bit better. And then there's vitamin C and all the vitamin Bs that are water-soluble. So those are just bound in watery fruits and veggies. And the good news is that plants provide nearly all of these vitamins, again, except for B12, which is produced by bacteria, and vitamin D, which is produced by the body when the skin is exposed to sunlight. So that might be something else that you might want to consider supplementing, especially if you're not getting outside enough, like 15 minutes a day at least, like intentional sunlight, not to just be sitting in your car, but like intentionally outside, exposing your arms and your face to the sun. You could potentially need to supplement with vitamin D. In fact, One of the reasons why I don't have a fancy slideshow is because I have recently found out that I am severely vitamin D deficient. Shame on me for not taking my daily vitamin D. And I just haven't had the energy. It will make a huge difference on you if you have adequate vitamin D levels, you guys. So make sure that if you're not feeling right, that you actually go and get your blood tested. Okay. So the beautiful thing is that these vitamins are packaged together with phytonutrients and other powerful disease-fighting substances that work in synergistic ways to support our health. All right, let's talk about disease prevention. This is probably one of my most favorite part. I'm going to deter here really quick. Angela says, Dr. Tom Lodi uses plant keto for some of his cancer patients. Yes. See, yeah, it's a therapeutic approach. I love it. Thank you guys for saying that you're here. And Teresa says that she's juicing. It's loud. You're funny. Lori, you said immunity code recommends eating cooked baked potatoes that have been refrigerated. Yes, my friend, let me tell you about that. Yes. And it's not just potatoes, Lori. It's really cool. There's even more and more stuff like science coming out, but potatoes, absolutely. Yes. When you cook starches, any starch, beans and grains, and specifically these white potatoes, there's several studies about the white potato. When you cook it first, then you refrigerate it, it actually increases the resistant starch, making you more full than if you were to eat it right when it was cooked. Now, the difference between it is actually not that much in terms of the satiety, but it's still there. And what's really beautiful about this is that when these cooled starches have cooled, they actually increase their prebiotic fiber, which is something that we definitely are all lacking in prebiotic fiber, not probiotics. I'm talking about prebiotics, and prebiotic fiber is what the probiotics eat in our gut. So a lot of the time, some of us are overwhelmingly, we are supplementing with all these probiotics, and that can actually cause an overgrowth of bacteria in our gut. We need prebiotics for the probiotics to eat. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you so much, Lori. Lois has her hand raised. We'll get to you in just one second. Lois, do you have, Becca says, do you have any sources from studies about how eating high protein can be taxing and not ideal? Yes, I can absolutely make a newsletter about that soon. Chris says she's here. She's late, but you made it. I'm happy that you're here, Chris. We are not done. And Lois, if you want to put your thing in the chat, please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to let you unraise your hand at the end and we'll take your question. Okay. So what do plants do for us in terms of disease prevention, you guys? Oh, I don't know why, but I am just so obsessed with reducing cardiovascular disease, probably because it's our number one killer. And I see so many people in my life that are struggling with open heart surgeries or dying from heart attacks. Like, I mean, you guys, it is way too common. And, sometimes your first heart attack is your last. That's it, period, point blank. And it's a silent killer. So what plants do for us in terms of disease prevention is when people change from the standard American diet to high animal and processed foods, you see reversal of type 2 diabetes, overweight and obesity, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, high cholesterol, peripheral artery disease, renal failure, gout, and so much more. Blood pressure regulates also, and fasting glucose regulates as well. And arteries open up and blood can flow again. Okay. There is a reason that healthy plant-based eating is the trend that just won't stop. Okay. As people try it and experience for themselves the significant benefits of switching to a plant-based lifestyle, they inspire many others to join the same healthy revolution. And so the movement grows. And of course, this is not just a healthy diet that is good for us or our hair or our sleep or our mental and physical health. It's also good for the health of the planet and the global population and public health. So again, what is a plant-based eating pattern? Eating plant-based means that you consume extremely small or no animal products. Again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing though. I don't want you all freaking out. Meat, you're eating very small amounts of meat, poultry, game, fish, dairy, and eggs. And to think more about eating whole plants that are, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, mushrooms, herbs, spices. Okay. With this lifestyle, you can eat tacos, you can eat burgers, you can eat hot dogs. Some people make them out of carrots. I don't know. I don't know if that would satiate, me, but anyways, that's a thing. You can eat pizza. You can eat curries. You can eat soups, pies, and many other favorite recipes. But when we eat the whole food, it's even better, right? But again, you can still mimic your favorite foods. And we actually have sessions on all of this. We have sessions on food combining and nutrient absorption and switching some of the favorite, like Alfredo, like heart disease promoting foods into healthy whole plant foods. We have all of this in Holistic Mama Society and our whole vault of trainings that we've already done so far. We go over all of this. And so let's talk about what happens exactly to your body when you go plant-based. What happens to your body? Even though a plant-based eating pattern might look a lot like a standard American diet, like burgers and lasagnas and pancakes and more, the difference in making it plant-based is profound. It's so profound, you guys. There is no cholesterol in plants, okay? And a plant-based diet also leads to much lower amounts of saturated fats, unless you are consuming coconut oil. Do not do that. Do not do that. Coconut oil is high in saturated fat. It's actually one of the coconuts and coconut oil are like the plants that are high in saturated fat. Everything else that's saturated fat is from animals. So if you're watching your triglycerides, keep your coconut oil to a minimum or null. You guys, I had buckets of coconut oil in my closet. And I actually used to sell nut butters that were made with coconut oil to make them more smooth. Once I found out about the saturated fat content, I switched it from coconut oil to coconut butter, which is whole coconut meat blended up. And that made me feel better because it was bound to fiber. And I knew that that was better than it just being the isolated oil. But then my conscience got to me a few years after that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't promote this. I have to take it off the market. I had to take it off of the market and stop selling it. It was a sad thing, but anyways, yeah. So, okay. At the same time, plants are rich in fiber, natural prebiotics, vitamins, minerals, and health boosting antioxidants. And because of these properties and more, a plant-based eating pattern can have an astounding impact on both your short-term health and your well-being long-term. So while we reduce the risk of illness in the long term, there is no evidence. Oh, there's also evidence that plant-based eaters live longer. It's amazing. So first and foremost, eating plant-based lowers your risk of heart disease. And this is so incredibly important because it's our number one killer. Research also consistently shows that a plant-based diet rich in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains can be beneficial in managing, halting, and even reversing stroke, coronary and vascular heart disease, and peripheral artery disease. So no wonder a plant-based eating pattern is the center of many innovative programs aimed at managing this devastating disease. Okay. Also, you're reducing your risk of cancer when you eat plant-based. We know that all processed meats are carcinogens, like straight up, and that all red meat probably causes cancer. So avoiding meat altogether is advisable, but did you know that milk could also be problematic as well? Researchers have shown that consistently drinking milk, as little as 1 cup of dairy milk per day, can actually increase your risk of breast cancer by up to 50%. And however, research shows that plant-based eating is associated with a decreased incidence in all cancers combined. And specifically, the risk of female-specific cancers like breast cancer when compared to omnivorous eaters is significantly lower. Also, cognitive decline. I am just so excited for Dr. Dean Ornish's cognitive Alzheimer's long-term study to come out. It's going to be a while, but he is challenging the status quo right now and testing what an exclusively whole food plant-based diet can do for the reversal of Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. You guys, this is the next, they're calling Alzheimer's and cognitive decline like type 3 diabetes or it's like the next, it's not good. Okay. So research suggests that eating a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains and low in animal products reduces the risk of cognitive decline in later life. And studies conducted in Singapore actually followed more than 63,000 people for more than 20 years and found that those who adhered to a more plant-based eating pattern in midlife had lower risk of cognitive decline in later years. Also, you're going to reduce your risk of diabetes. A whole food plant-based eating pattern naturally is lower in saturated fat. Again, unless you're eating coconut oil, which is the big old plant source of saturated fat, which I just don't suggest you do. It's a powerful tool for preventing, managing, and even reversing type 2 diabetes because it allows insulin to function properly. And eating plant-based has been shown to be effective at reducing and managing symptoms of type 1 diabetes, which is autoimmune diabetes. So a 2023 NIH study actually tested thousands of patients with type 2 diabetes and found that a plant-based eating pattern controlled blood sugar 3 times more efficiently than a traditional diabetes diet. And within weeks, participants enjoyed dramatic health improvements. And in some cases, you wouldn't even know that they'd had disease at all. It's fascinating and amazing. Eating plants can also improve your focus, you guys. Our mental health is very much affected by what we eat, like so much. And I will just speak to this. I used to have severe ADHD. And when I changed my diet, I got off of my Adderall that I was on for years and years. And I literally didn't think that I would be able to ever learn without it. Now, I don't even drink caffeine. Like, I'm not saying that you have to go and roll like that, but like, I don't even have to drink caffeine to focus anymore. My mental clarity is just completely changed from what I eat. Oh, it's amazing. So anyways, when we eat a standard American diet that is high in free radical producing molecules in our body that cause oxidative stress, this can lead to psychological issues. So the best way to combat free radicals is to eat foods that are rich in antioxidants, opposite of oxidation, antioxidants. They protect against these free radicals. And that includes beta carotene rich melons and cantaloupe melon, carrots, pumpkin, peaches, high vitamin C foods like berries and kiwis and oranges and bell peppers, and vitamin E like nuts and seeds and avocados and whole wheat. And the fact that plant-based is naturally so rich in antioxidants may be the reason why so many people adopt this lifestyle and experience better clarity. You can also reduce your risk of Alzheimer's. 50 million people worldwide are living with dementia and degenerative brain disease that most commonly impact people as they age. And we may think that there is little to do with preventing it, but actually Dean and Aisha Shirzai, which I have yet to get on my podcast, will tell us that we're wrong. And I actually met these doctors at Cleveland Clinic years ago when I was going to meet the Esselstyns for a presentation that they did. And these doctors, also known as the Brain Docs on Instagram, which you should go follow. These doctors have developed a 5-point program that say they can prevent Alzheimer's in 90% of people. And they can delay onset by up to 15 years in the remaining 10% who have a genetic predisposition to the disease. So exercise, sleep, managing stress, challenging ourselves are all part of the program. And the 5th element is eating whole plant foods. It's very much on my radar because my grandma had Alzheimer's. So I am trying to avoid that one. Hair and skin, you guys, that can actually improve when you eat whole plant foods. Typically your hair can get shinier and thicker and healthier looking, especially if you're eating your good amount of fats, like 1 ounce of nuts and seeds a day, or half of an avocado, or several tablespoons of flax seeds. And this is typically due to the dramatic increased quantities of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. And your hair can benefit greatly. And so can your skin, thanks to iron and B12 and vitamin D. And people, which by the way, vitamin D we get from the sun, we know. But anyways, you can produce it in your body to help your skin and your hair. And people, again, also improve their skin in terms of acne and inflammatory issues like psoriasis, eczema. I used to severely struggle from eczema. And that is partly, in fact, because of the high fiber content, which can actually help balance your hormones. And it's also, this eating pattern is naturally lower in fat, which can also help acne. Also, high vitamin C foods help you to create collagen production naturally, which is great for skin and hair. Okay, and then you're also going to find your ideal body weight when you eat plants. So fortunately, the foods that you can eat make a huge difference in your body weight. And studies have shown that eating whole plant foods is the most sustainable way to eat in terms of keeping a healthy body weight out of all other dietary patterns. It's been compared. People who adhere to whole plant foods and eat strictly plant foods have the lowest body weight, the healthiest body weight, long-term. Okay, so this is awesome considering that we have a sugar and processed food addiction society that is desperately trying to break free, but we are all surrounded by marketing and fast food and cheap junk that makes it really hard. I get it, you guys. I used to be there. When you flood your body with the nutrients it desires and needs, your cravings for the junk will eventually greatly reduce. And then I'm almost done, you guys. I know I'm going, but you got to know this information. Less pain and shorter recovery after your workout when you eat whole plants. So if you haven't yet seen the documentary called The Game Changers movie, you should. It's hilarious and it's very educational. And you'll know that athletes actually find significant benefits from going plant-based. And one of those is reducing muscle soreness. And quicker recovery after training sessions allows them to train harder for longer and more often and get the edge over their competitors. So when the blood flow can flow, when you are not vasoconstricted because of all the saturated fat, and when you get that nitric oxide from your dark leafy green vegetables, your blood flows through your body. When your blood flows through your body, it gets to all of your vital organs, all of your muscles, your digestive system, and everything works better. So without that restricted vasculature, you're much better off and your muscles heal faster. And you're also getting less endothelial damage from foods like sugar and oil and saturated fat. You also age better. And I told you earlier that we were getting a little techie. Now I'm going to get a little techie here and I'm going to tell you about telomeres. And telomeres are so cool. Okay. So researchers who study blue zones, which are part of the world, again, where people live the longest and healthiest and have the longest age, have found that people who live in these regions tend to eat predominantly plant-based. I've told you that multiple times tonight. The answer to why this may be is because it's found at the cellular level. So every cell in the human body contains 46 chromosomes, okay? And at the end of every single DNA strand is a cap called a telomere. And what you can do is you can imagine this like a shoelace. You have your shoelace, that's your DNA. And then you have your plastic cap that's at the end of the shoelace, right? And if this shoelace cap starts to get shorter, your shoelace will start to fray, right? That's the same thing with our DNA and our telomeres. As we age, these telomeres become shorter and shorter and shorter, and our cells deteriorate and die. That's just how life works. Many things can affect our telomeres, including depression, lack of sleep, poverty, but diet is a huge component. And studies actually show that a low-fat, plant-based eating pattern doesn't just protect our telomeres, but it actually lengthens them. So I cannot wait until Dr. Greger comes out with his How Not to, he already came out with his How Not to Die book, which you guys should all read. It's fascinating. He talks about telomeres in there, but he's also going to have a book called How Not to Age. And he told me that he was going to be on my podcast, but he's writing his How Not to Age book. So I'm waiting for that day. He's like my hero. Okay. So how in the world are you guys going to do this? I'm going to not make this overwhelming. We're just going to make this brief. How are you going to do this? How are you going to transition to this healthy way of eating without getting overwhelmed and without going in with this all or nothing mentality and restricting and then binging and setting yourself up for failure. Like, what do we do? Well, I'm just going to give you some very basic guidelines. Okay. And just the fact of the matter that I really want you to take away from tonight is that be sure that you're getting a good variety of whole plant foods on a weekly basis. Okay. What you can do and make it kind of a game is get 30 different plants a week. It's very easy to do this, but we know that this is actually, I mean, it sounds easy, or actually it sounds hard, but I'm going to show you it's easy. When we do this, we are optimizing our gut microbiome. And when we optimize our gut microbiome, we are optimizing our immune system, because most of our immune system resides in our gut. Okay. And just to give you a super easy thought about this, if you were to have one meal, and Dr. Will Bolsowitz gives this exact example, so I'm just going to copy off of him. If you have a marinara sauce that's made with just pure tomatoes, there's one. If you add mushrooms, there's two. If you add bell peppers, that's three. If you add caramelized onions, that's four. If you add herbs and spices, that's 5, 6, 7, maybe, right? If you add a whole wheat pasta or a whole grain pasta, that's 8. Or a bean pasta, that's 8 plants right there in one meal. If you have a smoothie and you put spinach and mango and maybe a date and some almond milk or almonds, there's 4, right? And then if you added, I don't know, if you wanted to add a protein powder or something like that, you could. It's really not difficult, but getting a variety is key to gut health and to your enjoyment. It makes eating fun. And when you can experience all the flavors that you love from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, herbs, spices, and mushrooms, you're going to enjoy your food and you're going to stick to what you're doing. I also really, really, really want to emphasize the fact that starch is incredibly important. So don't skimp on your starch. Please don't fear carbohydrates. It's going to take some unwiring, because our society is so opposite of that. But I promise you, this is the way to prevent disease. I also have all of this information in Holistic Mama Society. So if you're confused or overwhelmed, just know that I have a resource for you. So again, as we're looking at a daily eating pattern, I want you getting several servings of at least 3 cups of, okay, non-starchy vegetables like zucchini, leafy greens, vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, celery, peppers, onions, artichokes, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, spinach, lettuce. Those are all non-starchy, delicious veggies, okay? They're chock full of nutrients, vitamin C, riboflavin, calcium, iron, fiber, all the things that we need. 3 servings of fruits a day. Go for 3 cups, okay? That's a generalized thing. 2 servings of legumes, if you can. And a serving would be considered a half of a cup. That's just 1 cup of beans a day. If you can get to 1 cup of beans, you guys, you're winning, okay? And I go over this as well in HMS. If you have trouble digesting beans, there could be several reasons why. But I also explain how to increase digestibility. But my suggestion for you is that you simply take it day by day. If you are currently not eating beans, but you want to incorporate these health promoting longevity foods into your diet, start with a bean a day. Start with a tablespoon of beans a day and work your way up. Maybe 1 tablespoon for a few days, then for a few more from day 1 to 3, then from day 4 to 6, you do 2 tablespoons, you work your way up. It takes time because you have a gut microbiome, and these bugs, these bacteria in your gut need to get used to digesting new foods, specifically beans that can cause gas. I get it, but they're really, really good for you. And there's also specific beans that you can eat that are more digestible than others. Start with the smaller ones like lentils first. The next one is get 4 servings of grains or starchy veggies every day. Okay. Grains are rich in fiber and I mean, I just got my B vitamins checked. Like I told you, I got my D. I got a whole panel going on because I do have some gut issues going on. I'm just love to be transparent because I don't know, maybe I have long-term E. coli or something. I got food poisoning and things have just gone downhill. So we are getting that all worked up, but my B vitamins were just on point, like B6, B12, B2. There's lots of Bs. And they were on point. And that's probably thanks to my grains, my whole grains that I eat. I don't fear them. But I also eat a lot of potatoes and starchy sweet potatoes. And those are just amazing and longevity foods. So think about things like quinoa and bulgur and buckwheat and millet and rice and even whole pastas and bean pastas and corn and sweet potatoes and winter squash. Aim for several servings of that a day. And then 1 serving of nuts and seeds a day, like 1 to 2 ounces of nuts and seeds every day is a good amount, or 1 to 2 servings. I'm sorry, 1 to 2 ounces of nuts, maximum 2, specifically for people that are on a weight loss journey, more for those who need to gain. Or a couple tablespoons of seeds, like 2 to 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds or flax seeds, for good omega source as well. All right. So to go over what this needs to look like again, let's just look at a day. Let's just look at an example day. Hold on. Before that, I have other notes that I wanted to tell you. We're looking at unprocessed or lightly processed foods. Like your lightly processed food would be like noodles or tofu, or whole grain bread or tortillas that don't have like additives. These are typically 1 to 2 ingredient foods, and they're not stripped of their nutrients. Okay. They're just blended. Basically, they're blended and kind of morphed into a different shape. So that is something that you're going to focus on if you're not going to be eating the whole food. So if you want to eat whole wheat berries, that's great. Have you ever had whole wheat berries, anybody? Especially for those who aren't celiac, you should try whole wheat berries. You can make salads out of them, mix them with cucumbers and pomegranate seeds, and so yummy. But if you're not going to eat the whole wheat berry, get yourself the whole wheat pasta. It's still the same thing, a little bit higher in glycemic index, but it's still bound to fiber and it's still the whole food. So we're also not going to be adding a lot of salt, oil, and sugar, you guys. These are chemical additives. And I have a podcast episode coming out with Dr. Frank Sabatino all about this and about food addiction, processed food addiction, what's happening with these chemical additives, these salt, oil, sugar, which so many of us think chemical additives, we think colorants and natural flavorings and all that stuff. We think of those as chemicals, but salt, oil, and sugar are added chemicals. These are foods that are not found in nature. These are chemicals that are added to our food to make them more palatable, to make them highly addictive, and to keep us coming back. Now, I don't want you fearing salt, oil, and sugar, but again, they are added to our food and these are not the whole natural state. And a lot of the times these leave us stuck in the pleasure trap and makes these whole natural foods taste less exciting. And we just don't love what we're eating. Like, I want every one of you to get to the point where you're just like, oh my God, this broccoli is so sweet. I swear to you that life exists, but you have to get off of the pleasure trap and retrain your bliss point and detoxify your taste buds and get back to where they started. So we have to take this slowly and adapt, but this is very doable. Also, I want you to just kind of minimize the ground grains that you're eating. Like, don't eat all noodles. I mean, noodles are fine, but like, don't eat all noodles for your starch. Like, try to go for the whole foods when you can. Okay. You don't want to be eating all bread for your whole grains, right? You want to be eating the whole grain as much as possible. We're going for fiber. I want you to look for 35 to 60 grams of fiber per day. Here's a fun challenge. Instead of counting your protein grams, start to count your fiber. Your fiber is 97% of us are deficient in fiber, and 97% of us are getting enough or more protein than we actually need. That is like crazy. So we need to switch the script there. We want to moderate our fat from healthy food sources, like go for 10% of your daily intake for fats. no added oil if you can help it, 0 trans fats. And those are all found in processed foods, which we shouldn't be eating anyway. So that's an easy one. Get sufficient omega-3 fatty acids from some chia seeds, Brussels sprouts, seaweed, hemp seeds, walnuts. Get a general inclusion of colorful anti-inflammatory phytochemicals and antioxidant-rich foods. Go for low environmental contaminants, so getting organic when possible. Don't reach for the syrups all the time. Keep the low glycemic load. If you need to eat syrup, my favorite thing is to blend dates and water together and make your own. Then it's still bound to fiber. Moderate your sodium intake to 1,500 milligrams or less, unless you are profusely sweating every day or so active that you're an Olympian and you need to add more than that. And then get nutritionally adequate food in your body. Eat in abundance, fill your plate with all the colors, all of the whole foods, and don't deprive. That's the way you're going to succeed. So a day in the life of a plant-based eater could look something like this. A bowl of whole grain oats. You could do steel cut oats or even rolled oats with ground flax seeds and berries. And then for a snack, you could have some apple with nut butter. And then you could have a massive salad for lunch with leafy greens, roasted sweet potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, scallions, mushrooms, corn, and hummus as your dressing. Just take hummus and mix it with a little water. It's the easiest dressing in the world. As your other snack, you could blend a few bananas with ice and water to make just a cooling, sweet, slushy drink. And then for dinner, you could be eating your cheesy tortilla bake, which I just put in Holistic Mama Society backend website. It's delicious. It has beans and it's so good. And it doesn't have real cheese. It's made with just plants, whole plants, cheesy taste, thanks to nutritional yeast. And then you could add a side of roasted vegetables like Brussels sprouts or even Mexican-inspired roasted cauliflower to keep your Spanish theme. But that's what a day in the life could look like. And as you could see, there's no deprivation there. You're eating in abundance. And this lifestyle is about enjoying the food that you make. So you need to find flavors and spices and herbs that you love so you can maintain this lifestyle. And you will find recipes that you love eventually. Just you have to seek them out. And my guess is that you said yes to this masterclass tonight because you knew that the current path that you're on isn't for the long haul and that you're ready for something bigger and more permanent to living your life as full out as possible, right? And in a holistic and a well-rounded way. In this work, it goes way beyond this time that we've spent together tonight, you guys. And thank you so much for sticking with me for 25 minutes later than I had planned. But this is why today I'm super excited to invite you to work with me or to come into my monthly membership. I have a monthly membership community for women who want to take control of their health in a holistic and natural way to help themselves and their family live well. And this is your chance to finally go all in on your wellness journey. And this time, it's not just about your weight. It's not just about the food that you're eating. It's not just about exercising. This is about you as a whole woman, as a whole human being, reclaiming their power to prioritize their wellness and make choices that impact your family for generations to come. And when I started my journey, I was lonely and confused, you guys. I did not know how to live this way. I gave you a few hints in this tonight, but if you know me and you've been following me, you know that I used to eat profuse amounts of processed and animal foods every single day. That was part of my day. It was the fabric of my day. In fact, the lowest point that I had was one morning when I was eating Neapolitan ice cream with coffee poured into the Neapolitan ice cream container as my breakfast. That's what I was doing. That is where I was. I also used to struggle with anxiety and depression and ADHD, and I was medicated for every one of them. I was super inflamed. I felt super uncomfortable in my body. I smoked cigarettes and I drank a ton of alcohol, and not, all day, every day, but I would drink. If I was drinking that night, I was drinking that night, this lifestyle has helped me break free from all of that. And again, for you, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. But for me, as I keep continuing journeying on my best self, I have found such freedom And I'm so passionate about it that I want you to be able to feel the same freedom. I want you to feel well in your body, and you deserve that. It's been really life-changing for me. And I know that you have tried diets and maybe they stuck for a hot second, but then they halted, or it was a temporary fix, or you've tried to research more natural options from food to products that you're using, to home remedies, maybe, so that you can live a more natural life and stop, having to lean in on over-the-counter medicines all the time and all of that stuff. But there's a lot of conflicting information out there, and it might feel like you don't know where to go. So I want to make sure that you feel connected and really good in your body. And it just is really hard to do that in this day and age. And all of the things haven't worked before. That all ends right now. And you have to stop living by reacting and start living intentionally. And you are your best healer. And this is in your hands to take control of your health. Okay. So that is where Holistic Mama Society comes in. That is why I created this community. And it is what you've been craving combined with the education that you need to actually enhance your life. So here's the problem though. There's isolated topics in the industry teaching things like plant-based nutrition, which I taught you tonight, and maybe exercise, or maybe there's a natural living course that you could take, or a mindset course that you could take. But living holistically actually needs to address all of these things so that you can really prioritize your health and step into alignment with feeling good and creating the legacy that you desire. And I'm here to teach you how lifestyle shifts little by little make the biggest change in your life. So Holistic Mama Society unlocks 5 pillars. Okay. Let me tell you what they are. I told you at the beginning, but let's reassure them. Belief system, body nourishment, honoring earth, success environment, and mind-body connection. These pillars allow you to experience true breakthroughs when you combine them together for the ultimate life of wellness. And there's a lot of emphasis on whole food, plant-based eating in HMS, because of course, if we eat well, our body is functioning at a much higher level, and then we can have more space to take action on the rest of our life. All of the other things that we want to tackle in our life, removing the toxins and adding movement in and getting that mindset work done and increasing our self-work through personal work. And holistic living is not just about one thing. It's about how all of those parts work together in harmonious flow. So holistic living embodies living as naturally as possible in a modern world and prioritizing the idea of living in alignment with your ideal existence. So all of this said, you can have the life that you want, and you can stop getting in your own way on your wellness journey. And I want to tell you what's included in HMS if you're interested in joining us. And what's included is weekly live calls. So you're going to get training, continuing education. Just like tonight, I don't ever go over an hour unless we're having a live Q&A or something. But I really try to keep it to an hour. So you get live weekly calls. You get cooking demos and tons of recipes in the vault. We already have over 75 recipes in the backend website right now. They're all whole food, plant-based, SOS free. A lot of them have herbs infused in them as well, because we like to focus on adding new herbs into our life and getting variety, like I told you about earlier. You're going to have access to private guest speakers, trainers, and coaches in HMS. I have amazing guests come in. We have member-only specials and offers for events and one-on-one support with me, access to all past trainings. You have the opportunity also to earn 20% referral bonuses for if you want to add or ask your friends to join us. So HMS is a monthly membership. There's a minimum of 6-month commitment, and then you can cancel anytime. But I did this because this is an ongoing journey for our highest self, and it takes time to build new habits, to stack these habits, and to create long-term change. And most women actually stay a lot longer than 6 months because they're working on themselves. This is some work, that we've got to do. And there's also a VIP option. If you wanted to upgrade, you could have one-on-one support for me with a very low group pricing cost. So the next 5 members that join within the next week can actually gain access to a private one-on-one call with me during the first 3 months, plus an amazing wellness box full of natural products that will kickstart your holistic wellness journey. And it is time for you to just take back your wellness, you guys. Prioritize yourself, prioritize your health in a holistic way and step into the full of life woman that you want to be. I know that you're ready to step into your next chapter and to be in a community of other women that are also on their own journey. And I've opened up my calendar for 15-minute free wellness chats. I'm going to actually drop that link in the comments here. And I can't wait to get to your guys's talk. But I did drop your questions over here in a minute, but I dropped my Calendly link so that you can just get on a 15-minute chat with me and talk through if this is for you. But here's something I'm going to leave you with tonight, and we are almost done. It is that life will only change when you decide you are worthy of rising up to your highest self. When you become more committed to your dreams than you are to your comfort zone and take consistent, imperfect action to get 1% better every day. So what if a year from now, you guys, that you look back at your life and your health and you were a completely different person? It is totally possible. And what if you started now to take control of your health, just little by little, day by day, meal by meal, and finally realize how much you've grown on your healthy living path? Give yourself a chance to get better. You were designed for greatness, and we can do this together. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat and let's talk again, and be sure to schedule your free wellness chat so we can figure out what the best path would be for you to reach your wellness goals. Chris says you won't regret joining Holistic Mama Society. Thank you so much, my friend. I love that Kathy and Angela are talking in the chat right now. They know each other. I love this. They're in Chef AJ's community, and that's how we have pulled so many of us together in here. Teresa says that she is trying the date syrup. Cindy says wheat berries are great. They're so good, aren't they? Ina Garden introduced me from the Barefoot Contessa. She introduced me to wheat berry salad. That was like the beginning of that was like 12 years ago when I really started transitioning to plant-based. Her salad had feta in it, but yeah, I was still very addicted to dairy at that point. So I wasn't sad about that. But I was excited when I had these wheat berries. They were so good. Lori says, what about Greek yogurt? Well, Greek yogurt is concentrated animal dairy. So there is still potential risk to cancer with that because of the hormones. So we have to think about dairy, like it's coming from cows can't lactate. Sorry to get technical, but cows can't lactate unless they're pregnant, right? Or unless they've just given birth. And that means that there's excess estrogen in the body. And when they are excreting this, then you take it and you turn it into cheese or you turn it into yogurt. It is actually compounding the estrogens. So you're getting even higher doses of estrogens and IGF-1. So I suggest trying to find plant-based yogurts if you can. There are absolutely plant yogurts out there. And I will just say, because I like to be transparent, there have been some studies showing us that there are benefits to our gut microbiome of eating animal-based yogurts, but that is just isolated studies showing benefits of gut microbiome and not looking at a bird's eye view, like, is that increasing our cancer risk, right? Stuff like that. So I want you to know that too. There are gut microbiome benefits thanks to the probiotics, but you can find that in plant-based yogurts as well. Kathy says, oh, my marinara needs garlic. My marinara needs garlic too. Of course it needs garlic. You need to get the alliums in there. Those are cancer protective. And we learn about that in HMS too. I counted my plant intake today. Cindy said 20 different plants. Boom. Okay. You're going to get to what is it going to look like by the end of the week? You're going to be crushing it. Okay. The more, the better. Lois says something about PT. Shoot. What about coconut oil on skin? Coconut oil on skin is fine, Lois. From what I've learned, I do think that there actually has been studies showing that potentially could increase your LDL cholesterol, which is very interesting because it actually absorbs through your dermal layer. But I think that they were like slathering it on like all day. I got to find that study, but it's really good for your skin otherwise. I mean, it's like great for hydration. Lori says that she loves coconut oil. Oh, darn. I'm sorry, friend. I did too. I did too. Okay. It's also used in Ayurvedic cooking. And I'm going to have an Ayurvedic guest come into HMS. And, they also use ghee in their cooking, which is interesting. But, oil is the highest calorie density food on the planet. And 70% of people are suffering being overweight or obese right now in their life. So it's like 1,200 calories per pound. No, I don't know. Angela probably knows if she wants to drop that in the chat. Maybe it's 2,000 calories, 3,000 calories per pound. But 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. Like you can eat a pint of blueberries for 120 calories, right? Like you can eat so much more of the whole food. So oil is just worthless. Truthfully, it's worthless. Angela says, Becker Brown, you will find some of these studies on Dr. McDougall's website. Yes. Yeah. They're all out there. Lois was saying she was just raising her hand. No questions. Okay. I'm trying to scroll, make sure that I'm not missing anything. What are my thoughts on coconut milk? Coconut milk is high in fat and can be high in saturated fat as well. So if you are obsessed with that coconut flavoring, I will let you know. I mean, you can absolutely have coconut milk in a healthy diet. I would just not be drinking it every day. Like my sister went autoimmune paleo diet when she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's a few years ago. And she was having constipation issues. And of course that comes with the territory of thyroid issues, but I was like, what are you eating? Let's look through this. She was drinking coconut milk from a can, because she wasn't doing dairy anymore. And she wanted to replace it. I was like, oh no, that is just high in saturated fat and completely constipating. We need to be, mixing up the plant milks. If you're drinking coconut milk every day, I would not suggest that. If you like the flavor of coconut milk, and you're okay with adding extracts or flavorings to your food, a lot of people use that are really watching their triglycerides and wanting to reduce saturated fat. They can take an almond milk or a rice milk or an oat milk, and they add just a little bit of coconut extract to it. And that is actually a really low fat way to get the coconut flavor without the saturated fat. So Kathy says, can you talk about nitric oxide, how we get it and why is it important? Does it come from plants? Yes, it comes from plants. This is why beets are one of marathon runners or sprinters or athletes. Beet juice is one of the best ways for the body to get quick access to nitric oxide. And what happens in your body when you consume nitric oxide is it vasodilates, meaning that it makes your blood vessels go bigger so that the blood can flow easier. And we need to be eating nitric oxide producing foods as much as we possibly can. Thankfully, we can find them in whole beets. We can find them in beet juice. We could buy a beet powder and add that to our smoothie. That's what I do for my husband before he goes out to the farm because he needs all the blood flow. And then greens, dark leafy greens are really great sources of nitric oxide or nitrates, which turn into nitric oxide when we chew them. And Kathy said, I've heard it's important to sleep from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. because that's the body's cleaning hours. It's thought that inadequate sleep during these hours may have something to do with Alzheimer's. Yeah, I've definitely heard something very similar to that. There is an optimal time to actually make sure that we are asleep. And we know that if we're people that work night shift, they actually have increased risk of cardiac events and heart attacks and stroke and cardiovascular disease. So that could very much overlap with this concept of making sure we're getting sleep from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. for sure, to help promote a lot of things, proper circadian rhythm, good digestion, cleaning hours. Kathy mentioned, we detoxify at night when we're sleeping. This is our rest and digest state. We have to take the time to properly rest. You guys, it is so important. Sleep hygiene is another thing that I cover in HMS. Thank you for bringing that up, Kathy. Angela says, I'm loving and appreciating all of this. Stacey, the deeper you dive into the details, the more fabulous your information. Love your energy and your passion. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys being here so much. I hope that you found this valuable. Do we have any more questions? I'm scrolling down. We've got the wheat berries. And is it true that plants high in protein are also those that contain iron? There's a lot of overlap there. That's a good question. Also, for those of you that are considering, that's a really great question, Kathy. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole on that now because really you're right, actually. Like dark leafy greens and tofu and legumes. Very interesting. Well, yeah, that actually does make sense because, okay, I'm just connecting all the dots, the iron, the heme, the non-heme iron, like all the building blocks to protein. Fascinating. For those of you who are looking to increase iron absorption, I have a training in HMS, but also just a really quick, easy thing that you can do is start cooking more in cast iron skillets. If you have anemia or low ferritin levels, that's just one thing that you can do. The iron skillet actually kind of leaches some of its iron into your food. Cindy says, what about balsamics? I love balsamics. I am obsessed with vinegar. I love vinegar. I can't eat vinegar right now because I'm having a histamine response due to this lovely gut issue. And we're going to kill whatever like parasite or whatever I have. I'm just like so beside myself and sad that I can't have my vinegars because I eat them almost daily. My favorite is actually from California Balsamic. They are reduced vinegars, and a lot of them have just straight herbs infused into them. And you can mix them with like tomato paste to make a fabulous ketchup in like 2 seconds. Like you can do all the things. And I just love balsamics. I love them. They also are a really great replacement for like really thick, like sweet, syrupy sauces that you'll find in Asian cooking. That I just love using reduced balsamics in that way. Kathy says, congratulations on the changes you made in your own life. I'm even more impressed by your healthy lifestyle you're teaching your son. Thank you, Kathy. I will be going live on Tammy Kramer's YouTube channel. If you guys are not following the Kramers, you need to do so. Nutmeg Notebook. We're going to go live with Cohen and we're going to talk about children because Kathy and her husband, Dave, I think it's Dave, they like reversed their cardiac issues through whole food plant-based eating. And now they have grandchildren and they are all eating whole food plant-based as well. And so we're just going to talk all about it. And I'm very excited. I will make sure to show you guys that or get you guys that link. I will for sure send in a newsletter and on Facebook. Thank you, Angela. Stacey is spectacular at guiding. I really appreciate that. You guys, do you have any questions? Kathy says, I battle every day to change my way of eating. I heard something recently that I have started to incorporate, and that is repetition of telling myself that I can do this. Oh, I love that, Kathy. And you should read The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. Or is that Jen Sincero? Oh gosh, I think it's Mel Robbins. You need to go and do the high five habit every day and give yourself literally a high five in the mirror. That's one of the best things that you can do. Also, look at yourself and smile in the mirror. It's just not possible to not like have a little boost of confidence when you look at yourself and smile. Even if you're not feeling confident, go and smile and see what happens. I love the support system, you guys, that you have in the chat. This is a complete 180 of what I know, but I'm over the constant skin problems that are wrecking the quality of life. I get it, Becca. I've definitely had my own skin problems too. Kayla says, I love the plant intake counting idea. Yeah, make it a game. Lori says, we need to plant bingo cards. Oh my God, I love it. Okay. Taking note. Kayla says, is olive oil okay? Olive oil is okay. There's more science coming out about this, you guys. I mean, here's the deal. Yeah, Angela said, it's 4,000 calories per pound. There we go. Kayla, let me just roll right into that. Oil is oil is oil. And unfortunately, oil is, again, the most calorie dense food on earth. Now, if you are on a weight gain journey and you don't have any risk of cardiovascular disease or high triglycerides, then sure, you could probably keep, oil in your diet if it was like a tablespoon a day, maybe, but I just don't suggest using it. It just doesn't make sense when you can add in fiber rich plants. Like instead of eating olive oil, you could eat olives, right? You could eat the whole plant, and get the healthy fats as well. But for those of you who are fearing oil, which again, I don't use them in any of my recipes. I just want you to know that raw olive oil is potentially okay and maybe even cardioprotective for some. And if you are going to use oil at all in your diet, I would only suggest using olive oil raw so that you're not completely destroying the phytonutrients that are actually protective in there. Otherwise, it's literally just dead fat. If you're heating your olive oil, don't do that. Avocado oil, if you are going to choose to cook with an oil, avocado would be the better option because it has a higher smoke point and it's not going to destroy the polyphenols that are potentially cardioprotective. Kathy says, I wonder if people with atrial fib would benefit from beet juice if it's a vasodilator. Yeah, I don't know. I need to go back and listen to Dr. Joel Kahn and Dr. Furman's Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease Naturally Summit that they just had these last few days. They talked about AFib in there. That's complicated. Kayla says, I appreciate the time you took to share this. Unfortunately, you got to go. Okay, no problem. Kayla, you're probably already gone. I hope that you had a great time. And thank you so much for coming. Kathy's excited to watch Nutmeg Notebook. You guys, thank you so much for being here. And we are wrapping it up. So make sure that you get booked with me. Let's chat. Come into HMS. Join me. It would be so amazing to have you. And if you guys don't have any questions, we're going to wrap it up. We will see you later. Be well.
I'm over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of The Urban Pharmacy. For today's show notes, head on over to theurbanpharmacy.com and be sure to join us inside our private Facebook group called The Urban Pharmacy, where we share inspiration, live trainings, and holistic living tips to help you build community and the healthy lifestyle that you've always wanted. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button and please consider leaving us a 5-star review. Before we connect again on the next show, follow me on Instagram at The Urban Pharmacy. That's urban with an H and pharmacy with an F. And I can't wait to hear your wellness journey as we get to know each other better. You know, there's truly no better time than now to level up your life. And I am so proud of you for showing up today. Until next time, be well, Health Crusader.